So when we were walking up here, we were talking about value with what you're doing. We were. And that's a funny conversation because as a instructor, coach, trainer, business owner, you get offended when people try to haggle for whatever it is because you know they're not haggling for that 6-pack of beer.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's weird. How do you kind of handle that and approach that? Because you have a very different thing. You don't have like a brick and mortar place that you're training people and stuff. You are working on your time wherever you're at 24/7 and doing the rest of life.
Right. Right. So how do I deal with it?
Yeah.
A lot of it comes with maturity because when I was a new trainer, you're just trying to like get clients however you can. So, I would discount my price because I didn't feel like I had a lot to offer. You're just trying to get clients. But now, after doing it for more than a decade, I would say I've had mentors help me along the way, especially when I started going online. So a big way is just stacking the value because you're right. Like what we sell is our expertise, is our experience, is our knowledge. And so you're not really paying hourly for that. You have to stack the value for the client. So for me, it's like you have somebody you can ask questions to that would take you, who knows how long hours to probably look up if you could even find the right information. Someone to customize a training program, get your nutrition right, hold you accountable. So you have to stack the value, make people realize and set yourself as like an authority in a way that is not condescending. So it's a balance, right? So you have to establish yourself as authority, tell people like it is, but without being a jerk about it. And then just realize like if people are going to haggle your price, then that's probably not somebody that you want to, if they don't see the value, yes, you can look at yourself and be like, could I do a better job of explaining the value to this person? Because a lot of times you have to look at yourself. Like maybe it's my fault that, I couldn't get this person to sign up or whatever it might be. But then on the other side of that is you have to realize like you're not always going to bat 100%, right?
Yeah.
So, people that are going to haggle the price with you, they're haggling the price everywhere in life. And that's why they're stuck. That's why they are the way they are. Now I look at it after, I have enough clientele now and yeah, I have, new clients coming in. But at this point, when someone doesn't want to work with me, I really do view it as it's their loss. It really is. Because you came to me, you're out of shape. You don't know anything about nutrition. You think you know about nutrition, but you don't know about nutrition. You think you know the proper way to work out, the right type of training program. You're not working out consistently. Your nutrition's not on point. You have shoulder pain you need help with. So if you don't want to spend a few $100 a month, that's money you're spending going out to eat with your friends, possibly going out to bars, buying pointless crap you don't need. So if you don't want to spend that money, if you're that much of a tightwad, to me, I really do view it. I'm like, that's really is your loss. Yeah. Now I don't say that, but I'm like, I don't say that, but I'm like, okay, yeah, like better, good luck because I'm fine. I'm in great shape. I have my clientele. I'm doing well. You're the one that reached out to me. So yeah, that's the way I view it now.
No, there's also that little side of it where as I think sometimes I get surprised that there's more people that experience it than just myself. Yeah. But there is also that feeling of, man, I don't even know if I'm really worth what I'm trying to charge.
Right.
Maybe I'm not syndrome. Worth that. Yeah. That's also weird to navigate because you have people that do not haggle, that do search you out, that do ask specifically for you, that say, hey, I heard you're out of everybody else, I should come to you. Cool. And then you tell them what the price is, even when like, man, they checked all the boxes already. And then you go, it's this much a month.
Right. Yeah.
Because you feel, they've asked me so many questions. What's the expectation now?
Right.
Like it's a weird kind of place you have to put yourself where you have to have the confidence. Yeah. Where like you say, you're not condescending. Because I've definitely been condescending to people.
Yeah, so I've been
like, bro, I literally watched you get out of that car wearing like brand new $100 pair of jeans. You're wearing the designer hat. You got the designer shirt on.
Right.
You didn't haggle for any of that stuff.
True.
I saw you at the bar this last weekend. All the round was on you. One night out is an entire month of training.
Right. No.
That's crazy.
Right.
But at the same time, there's that weird line of, should I even be charging this? Should I be asking for this? Because maybe they don't want it. I'm not worth it. And the other side is, I know I'm worth it, but how do you get around that with people? It's a weird balance for sure.
It is a weird balance. And like you said, it's important to be confident, but it's also, you don't want to be overconfident and put yourself out there like you're a jerk. So it's a lot of, I guess, self-awareness, self-reflection that you have to do. And I guess a little bit of, what's the word? Like, you have to almost have like a cognitive dissonance with your confidence. Maybe that's not the right word, but
disassociate from the conversation.
You have to, I hate to say fake it before you make it, but you do have to just practice like stating this is where I learn a lot from men. I mean, some of the best salesmen and people who are very confident, the people that I learn from are men, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, like you state your price and you're chilling, because whether they sign up or not, you're good. They need your help.
I take at this point, the thing that makes it where it's less stressful for me is I take such a passive role with it, where I just go, hey man, just come out and try it for a week. Try it for a week. You know, I have a women's self-defense class, and I like, you know what, you can donate $10 to come do this class. And if you leave in the first 10 minutes when I just talk, I'm just going to tell you, this is what this means to me. This is where I'm coming from for you guys. And this is what we're going to do today. These are expectations. By the end of the day, you'll walk away with this, and then you're going to need to come back. If you don't like what I say in those first 10 minutes, you can leave, and I will give you your donation back.
Yeah.
You know, like, I just get really where I feel like people, you don't have to do any of the haggling. You don't have to do any of the messy, like, talking with people where you feel like you have to justify stuff or am I worth it? If you just let them see what you do. And then they can go, wow, this is what I want.
Right.
I've seen it. I've experienced it. Let's go.
That calm confidence says something to people.
And really what's cool about that is whether you know you're doing it or not, you're doing it with your Instagram. You're doing it with your posts. Because you're not one of those people that goes, hey, I've got the secret formula, DM me, and you don't say anything else. Right. You just flex and, and do posing and wear skimpy clothing and like text me for a plan. Yeah. You're actually putting up workouts. Hey, do this.
Right.
Do that. You're doing breakdowns of techniques. Yeah, you're showing people stuff that literally people could go through and spice together an entire program off that.
Yeah, they actually could.
You know?
I've had people tell me, I'm like, that's actually good. But yeah, and kind of like to what you do, I think it was maybe John Thomas that was talking about this, but he was talking about the value of having an instructor in jiu-jitsu. He said, think about if you put like, I don't know, 3-4 guys in a room and you told them the rules of jiu-jitsu. All right, figure it out, create a martial art. But here's the rules. Here's the goal. He said, how long would it take these men to figure out the mechanics of a triangle? It could take them 10 years to figure that out. You have a coach that could teach you in 30 minutes what he's learned in years. So you're paying for that experience. You're paying for like a shortcut necessarily on time.
Yeah, we used to, back when I got started, it was Marco Huas Basrutin VHS tapes. And Grappling Magazine, where it would be pictures, like everything was either 4 steps or 14 steps. There'd be like two techniques on one page, and the other page was a technique of entire thing.
Notepad.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, well, all right, and you'd walk through it with your partner. You don't get what it's like until someone explains it to you in a way that resonates with you, with an analogy that makes sense.
Yeah.
To understand like the context of why we're doing things and the feel. The feel is so important with everything. I explained to a woman this weekend talking about choking. And I was like, we're not stretching. Yeah. Treat it like you're trying to open a pickle jar, like as tight as or tighten the cap on as tight as you can. And that makes sense.
That aha moment.
Yeah, and
I live for those.
And I think that's really what someone is trying to pay you for your shortcut, your hacks to these positions in the context of I was also a beginner.
Right. Yeah. Like I've been there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what actually got you into jiu-jitsu?
Oh man.
So I don't think I've ever found out. I don't know.
So I actually started in Taekwondo. So I guess you could say the martial arts started with the Taekwondo.
Everybody did.
I know everybody
around our age
karate,
did.
Yeah. It was here in the 90s growing up.
No, it was huge. With 3 Ninjas and the Chuck Norris movie or whatever.
Black belt in like
Sidekicks.
4 years,
Dude,
3 years.
The best. I still remember the Chun-Li, the yellow belt test kata. I still could do that.
Yeah, I know. And nothing against, Taekwondo at all. I think any martial art is better than no martial art. But,
for sure.
I started Taekwondo around the age of let's see, how old was I? I think I was around 7 or something like that. I did it for 4.5 years, and I really did. I loved it. And the only reason we had to stop is because we moved to like a podunk town in Oklahoma. And then I just kind of let that go. I started with high school sports, softball growing up, just, and high school, I kind of realized I wasn't, I've always loved sports. I started lifting weights at the age of 12. And that's where I really found my passion, just fitness and just being active in general. But with martial arts, I always liked the idea of just that self-protection. So for me, it was just, how can I keep myself safe? And it's like that survival instinct maybe. And in high school, when I realized that I wasn't going to be able to go, I wasn't going to get a college scholarship. Like I was good, but I'm not going to get a D1, full ride scholarship to college. So I wanted to get back into martial arts. So I picked up, I think, karate again. And at the karate school, there was jiu-jitsu classes. And I've never really seen some like UFC, but I was like, that is cool. What is that? Like, it's like wrestling, but it's not. Yeah. And I did my first jiu-jitsu class, and I really liked it. Like, I was like, this is really cool that I don't have to get hit in the face. And then there's like submissions and arm breaks. And then, of course, I had to leave that because I had to join the military right when I graduated high school.
Right.
And then I didn't really do, I did a little experiment with Krav Maga and stuff. So stayed on my fitness and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I moved to Lubbock, Texas to finish my college degree after getting out of the military. I met somebody at the mall who basically recruited me.
Yeah.
And I had dabbled in it just a little bit. But when he invited me to the academy and then I saw Clay Pittman teach the class, he taught the Gracie fundamentals, the Gracie self-defense. And I've never seen anybody teach the way he had. Really good details. He taught a whole Gracie self-defense system, which I just thought was so cool. So it really was for the self-defense aspect. And I remember him teaching like something like headlocks. And it just seemed like the most impossible thing to escape. Here's this headlock. He's like, all right, so how do we get out of this? And it was just like a beautiful step-by-step. The way he broke it down was just so detailed. And so I went through that whole Gracie combative self-defense system like several times to where I could teach it. And that's how I teach my women's self-defense now. And, granted, there's some little modifications because, there's some things in there I'm like, I can't teach this to a 50-year-old woman.
There's but the like building blocks, building blocks are there. There's positional stuff that like is universal with like the back control,
like 95%.
The punch block defense, and entering with a kick, all that stuff. Technical stand up.
The technical stand up. So
that stuff's awesome.
I learned the foundations, and then obviously I started doing the advanced classes and just learned from there. And I always loved like Pittman's details on things. He was just so detailed, and it's like he could just go into something. Like I remember one time he brought us to the side of the mat after class about X chokes. And I think he taught for like just 45 minutes, just extra details on just something that you thought was so basic.
Right.
So he always could figure out, like you could ask him a question, he could figure out, whatever that was. So he was kind of like my first. And then when I moved back home to Tulsa, that's where I started training at a Triton Fight Center under Pete.
Man, what years were you in Lubbock?
2012 to about 2016.
Okay. Yeah. So that's... Yeah, so maybe not then. So before that, I used to go up there a lot, and I might have still come up there around 2012. So I was friends. I was managing and coaching Rex Richards, who got his black belt from Clay. He was there with Brian Long and Brandon Mullins.
Okay, Brandon.
Frost Murphy, all those guys up there at the same time, and. We used to go up to Clay's gym. He used to have Draculino there all the time, and he always had hoists like twice a year.
Yeah.
So I've done those same classes. They're really good. Like, I know a lot of things have changed towards people's like attitude towards Clay Pittman over time.
Yeah.
However, I will say this, and I don't think anyone would disagree, that there was a period like 2004 to 2010, 11, 12, where that guy was the best guy within like a 5 or 6 hour drive from Midland, Texas. So you would go there because he had amazing details. He had a bunch of guys that competed, were winning pans, were placing at big tournaments.
Right.
We're winning Nagas back then when Naga was a thing. So it was like a really good spot to go. So you got some great instruction for starting jiu-jitsu, which most people, they end up having to kind of feel around for that good first spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like you said, people, he does things different. And he even says, he's like, now what he does is he's just a family academy. He doesn't want to do the IBJJF system.
Yeah.
It's more for, if you look at his academy, it's people who just want to train jiu-jitsu to better their lives.
Just hobbyist stuff.
Yeah, he's not trying to train like a world champion anymore. He let me know that up front. He's like, this isn't going to be a place where, I'm just trying to build world champions. I don't do that anymore. It's just not what I want to do. I want to just help families, and I want to, where moms and dads can feel safe. So say what you want about like his belt system or anything like that, but nobody has ever said that his jiu-jitsu sucks.
No,
like,
that dude is legit. Legit.
I mean, there's stuff. I mean, I learned from him like 10 years ago, and there's still stuff that I'm like, dang. Like, luckily he let me record a lot of his stuff. Like my old iPhone, it's so blurry, but I actually have it all backed up, and some of that stuff I'm like, dang, that was good. Like I still use a lot of the stuff that he teaches.
No, there's and you think about like some guys that came out of that gym from his jiu-jitsu coaching, like Leonard Garcia in the UFC.
Yeah.
Cowboy and Nemasio Page, they used to come up with Leonard and train with Clay. So there was a lot of really high-level people going through that gym.
So you're doing this, 2000 and what?
I had my first pro fight in August of 2000.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
You've been doing this a minute.
Yeah. So you talk about your first experience, like, I got to roll around, do jiu-jitsu. I didn't get hit in the face.
Yeah.
My first day, I was getting hit in the face.
You were getting hit in the face, yeah.
I was getting a little concussed on day one. So and totally different. Mine was guy with a shoot fighting background, trained at the Lion's Den.
Oh wow.
And then like a guy who, and his buddy that coached with him, it was like a karate, like a Shotokan karate, like a full contact karate style.
Yeah.
And then, so there was that striking of, we're going to teach you a side kick, spinning back kick, roundhouse kick, jab, cross hook. And then the other guy, the catch wrestler, it was double leg, single leg, straight ankle lock, guillotine, key lock. And that was jujitsu.
Yeah. That was Dojo storming, right?
Oh, dude, we used to go.
Who was the biggest and baddest? Yeah.
We used to go to a place called Chris Bryan's American Taekwondo. And we used,
Damn.
The dude had like
Why'd
a haircut.
Do him like that?
he looked like Travis Tritt. He has like long hair. He looked just like Travis Tritt.
I know what you're talking about.
He could walk into a casino in like Mississippi or something.
Yeah.
And
Going
people would be buying him drinks, and I love that song, brother. But that guy had a sparring night on Friday nights, where if you didn't have to have any experience, and you could come in there and you could spar. You sign the waiver. So you go in there and I was not a kickboxer, boxer, Muay Thai, none of that. I learned from a guy who had an amalgamation striking thing of karate, and then a guy who was like shoot fighter pancrase guy. And I would go in there on Friday nights, like, all right, let's see how this stuff's working. And I would spar with them, and I got in trouble. You can't leg kick. Okay.
In Taekwondo?
You can't leg kick in Taekwondo. You can kick them in the balls, but you can't leg kick. You can kick people in the balls during sparring.
Really?
But you can't leg kick. But you can't do this, you can't do that. No, you can't punch to the face. I can kick you in the head, but you can't punch me in the face.
Oh my gosh.
Do all this stuff. And then
many rules.
Yeah, well, he started doing like spinning back kicks. There's body lock and take him down. He got mad. And,
Nice.
I know jiu-jitsu too. I trained with Chuck Norris and Carlos Machado, and I was like, all right, cool. And he this is how much jiu-jitsu he knew. I got on top of him in his guard. He tried to submit me by squeezing me with his legs.
Yes.
The laugh says how much jiu-jitsu that is.
Oh,
but that's the way it was back in the day for me. So it's so funny that you started where you're at on that end, I start on that end, and we both have met at the same spot.
I know, isn't that crazy? And
Weird.
like kind of cross-train with the same people. Yeah.
And with cross-training the same people, you have made a move to Austin to train my buddy Jason Rapp, co-founder of Renzo Gracie Austin. Awesome dude. And we actually had talked. Yeah, well, I was like, hey, I'm going to be there with my buddy Will. We're going to train, meet us. We'll go out to lunch afterwards. And that you kind of became a member of Renzo Gracie Austin now.
Yeah.
How has that change gone?
Oh my gosh, it's great. I really love I guess at Renzo Gracie's, where you have, John Danaher is teaching twice a day there. Nicholas Marigali is teaching the gi class. So now it's definitely shifted to where the focus is on like, let's get better at jiu-jitsu. Now, that being said, it's not that every single person in the class is like aspiring world champion. Like there's so many hobbyists. I think that's what
I feel like when we went there that first night, like you were like, hey, I recognize that girl, and you know, and you were like, hey, kind of, because you asked me, you're like, what kind of belt level is in this class, and I was like, there's gonna be people that are like med doctors that live down the street, they're doing this just to do exercise, and then you're gonna be, and then I pointed at James Nakashima, who's he was like the 1FC welterweight champion at one point, All-American wrestler. Jiu-Jitsu guy, he's on the mat sharing it with everybody else. That's such a cool environment.
Yeah, the environment, I think that's what a lot of people think. They're like, oh, you know, some coaches, they just shy away from like trying to help competitors, or like, and maybe that's just like out of their comfort zone. But that being said, just because you're focusing on jiu-jitsu and just becoming like the best training room in the world doesn't exclude the hobbyists. And I think like hobbyists will obviously want to get better at jiu-jitsu too. And there's a way to do it safely. So I would say the training is it's longer, more focus on the details, so that we get a lot more time drilling the techniques, and then just the way the training is set up with the situational sparring, building on a lot of things. And what I've noticed with John is he doesn't just teach something. He does teach something different every day. However, he does repeat a lot of the same things and builds, and I actually really like that, because I know sometimes teaching, some people are like, oh, I've already seen this. It's like, so like, are you an expert yet? Like,
that way of teaching changed, because I used to do the other way of like, oh, you know, even if it was like you had a coach, like a lot of the Brazilian style coaches, they would go, we're gonna work De La Riva for a month. Do De La Riva for a month, but you would learn so many different moves, and if you couldn't get the basis of that down because of mobility or whatever, then you were always put in bad situations, and you go, I don't even like this, I hate this, and you would put it on the back burner for months or years. Like, I don't like that position, I'm avoiding it at all costs. But the way John runs the classes is it's not so much about these specific guards, these are positions that you will find yourself in every single round that you do, white belt to black belt.
That's true. Yeah.
And it takes away a lot of the guesswork of learning all these different moves. You don't have to learn a million moves. You learn 4 or 5 concepts that you can transition between everything. And that's how I started teaching my classes.
Yeah. And I love it. Yeah. Especially like right now, we're really focusing on the body lock, and I'm loving it, because the body lock has just been really hard for me to learn. Like, when I first started doing it, I'm just getting swept right and left, getting subbed. And I mean, it's a big emphasis on the body lock passing, and there's always a new detail. I'm like, now I'm at this point, I'm like, are there 100 different ways to like body lock and pass? There's got to be something. And I'm just glad he's repeating it so much, because hopefully, 6 months from now, I'll be really good at body locking.
I remember there was 3 separate trips I took down there to visit and train, where every time I went back, and I'd stay for multiple days, do multiple classes in the day. Every time I went back, there was at least 2 different classes that were exactly the same as the previous time, but there's one different outcome. Yeah, like, hey, sometimes people will put only one hand here and grab your head. Right. Now what? And then it's just like, oh, that's exactly what someone did to me the other day, and then you get to apply it. And I do like the way that training goes, because they have so many hobbyists. It feels like people are taught, because of situational rolling, that they're taught from day one. We are trying to learn and figure out things. We're not really trying to be competitive. Right. The way I would describe it to my students is we're trying to be non-competitive, non-compliant. Things like that. So it's like, okay, that makes sense.
It's a hard balance, yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like they know at any moment, Gary Tonin, Big Dan, Taza, one of those like high level guys, Helena, some female that's good, Katie Verhoeven, like any of those girls could walk in there and be partnered up with you or get switched around with you. And you don't want to be that spazzy white belt that hurts someone because you're trying to prove something. You want to learn too and feel that energy of people. And so you see a training room that's full, mature, and no one is getting hurt because they understand tempo and pacing.
Yes, he's big on that.
Yeah, it's so big, and it's really hard to get across to students. But I think if you start them off, you just keep pumping the brakes on them a little bit. Yeah, and you just do this. Yeah, you develop like some really dangerous people. Right. No, you're exactly right, and it's like the concept of. And when I first started too, I was a CrossFitter, bodybuilder, trainer. I was in good shape, I was getting thrown. Until it breaks. Yes, like I feel like I was that. I don't know. My old training partners are like, Jordan, you weren't that bad, but I'm like, I would just think about maybe how fucked up I got, like, and it was my fault because of how hard I was going, and then like I'd get paired with guys your size
barely using any effort.
Yeah.
And then they just smoke me. I had to wear headgear my first 2 years. And it's my
your
fault.
ears smashed?
Yes, it is my fault because of just how I was rolling. And I just feel like it's that aspect when you're like, but self-defense, but the streets, and it's like, yeah, but we're learning, and you got to think, and Clay put this into my head too. We have to come and train tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And so if you try to go so hard every single round, you're going to be so sore and you're going to get hurt. Now you're off the mat for months. Yep. And so you have to think, we're coming tomorrow to train. And guess what? When the time, hopefully the time never comes, but when it does come, you're going to be fine if you ever have to go on the streets. I
have people that they train for a month, and I always refer, and especially a lot of positions I work with, there's always a self-defense application somewhere in the realm. I go, hey, listen, when a all-natural person, meaning someone who's never trained before, when you do this with them, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
You're fine.
You're failing in here hundreds of times in a week. You're going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, you just have to, it's just that learning. Like you said, you're training your body, but I mean, you're training your mind, really.
You said you brought up going with guys. What describe, and I bet you get this in a very different way. I've got a lot of females that have talked and described about being the female rolling and saying things like, you have to speak up with the guy and say, hey, I can't go with you as hard as you want, or I got to find a different partner.
Right.
You have to be proactive for yourself.
It's true.
You have to be able to do that. And but sometimes it's hard to find your voice to do that right off the bat. You have to kind of, get yourself hyped up to do it maybe.
Yeah.
But for you, I bet it's even harder because you're not small. You're not a 5'2", 115 pound female grappler.
Right.
You're jacked. And so guys, I'm sure people and some guys that are just even smaller guys feel like, oh yeah, I can go with her and I know how to flow roll. And they still use that different kind of strength, that different kind of movement or speed that you're like, I don't think men understand it. Would you best describe the difference in training with a female versus training with a male?
Ooh, that's good. The difference in training with a female and a male is with a female, especially a female your size, you get more real feedback about your true skill set. And just realize, and you just have to constantly tell yourself when you go with a trained man who you just have to accept that you are the weaker sex. This is how it is. Even, I'm very strong, but like a guy that has like 50 pounds on me, that's hard. Even if he doesn't work out, like they're still going to be stronger in some areas. Like, maybe if we arm wrestle, I don't know, you know what I mean? But that doesn't matter.
But you're talking about just like physical structure.
Yeah, men are bigger, so their bodies are bigger and it's hard to get your weight distribution. And so you just have to, you really do, we talk all the time about like egotistical guys, but women, we have egos too. So we have to learn to accept that and find ways around it to be more technical with your weight and to slow down and realize like you're responsible for the training round too.
Yeah.
And the pacing, and it's easy to get nervous and go hard, and some guys are just going to go hard regardless.
Yeah.
And when it's come to that, sometimes I will just slow down even more and just let them have the upper hand. I'm like, okay, you want the upper hand like that bad that you're going to go like that hard? I'm like, all right, fine, I'll just work defense this round, And then there's like a handful, like even black belts I won't roll with, but it's few. Most men are very very mindful about their weight and things like that. And someone watching this might be like, well, self-defense in the streets. It's like, okay, we're talking about other trained men who are bigger than us. So you have to constantly tell yourself, okay, if I have to defend myself on the streets against an untrained man who is bigger and stronger than me, I'm going to be just fine. Now, training room, different.
Well, it's also not not even have to gloss over. If someone wants to say like, what about for streets and self-defense? You also go, okay, cool. Well, I'm also not just physically learning how to get a skill set, but I'm also paying attention to things like statistics, like average height and weight of someone who attacks a female.
Right.
Is
True.
what, 5'7", 180?
Yeah.
You're going to be just fine.
Right. You're going to be fine.
Doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Spends all his time drinking or doing drugs or staying out late or just having an unsavory lifestyle.
Yeah.
Probably not a disciplined person. So you start crossing out all of these
trained
suspects.
men aren't attacking
it's
women.
very, very different.
Very extremely rare if that would happen.
Yeah, you're talking someone who has like a definite break psychologically.
Yeah.
If they start out, because most people this sport doesn't keep bullies in it for very long.
No.
And if there are bullies, they're like a lone wolf kind of person. They
Right.
never really have a gym. They never
Right.
really have a group. They're
Yeah.
always kind of hopping around. You see a lot of MMA fighters.
Right. And if they are at a gym, then you know that if that gym is going to keep somebody like that has a track record, then you know that's not a gym you want to train at. So, yeah, I guess to answer your question, training with a woman is going to give you more true feedback on your skill. But then training with the man is also good because you realize like you have to be even more precise about weight distribution. You overcommit one way, you're still going to get bench pressed off. And I'll even tell you, as a black belt, there is still the threat of just getting bench pressed off somebody.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because it's so basic, but you're like, man, if I don't manage my weight perfectly, you know, I'm not going to be able to stay on the mount for very long.
There's nothing more embarrassing or
Yes.
more stressful when you're a higher belt and like a black belt and a day one person comes in and they bench press you, lift you up. And that's not supposed to work.
Yeah, it's not supposed to work, and it does. And you're like, oh my God.
But it's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yes, that's
for
why it is
sure.
important to train with somebody bigger than you for, you know, self-defense aspects of just weight distribution, especially if you're a 120-pound woman, you can't overcommit too far one way. You're going to get rolled real easy. And I think transitioning with bigger people, you do have to just learn to transition more. Like, you know, giving up, like, okay, if I don't accept the fact that I'm about to get bucked off and mount, I can accept that. Or right before that happens, I can switch to a knee on belly.
I can do whatever.
Right, and do a snap down. So it's also that, and that all that is that kind of, that I guess I would say like in the moment ego of like I'm keeping the mount versus like no, you have to trade your position real quick. So you have to do you want to be in bottom guard or would you rather be in top turtle because you got to pick right now.
And see, that's a concept again that I think didn't really get. I know John is really big on it, but Jason was big on it because in law enforcement, so I knew Jason, all of his people already knew that coming into that, even with that mixing of those two groups of student base. Same thing at my gym is I had a real big change of mentality when I started getting back and teaching more and more law enforcement of, man, you know what? Our jiu-jitsu really shouldn't be like, I stay on my back all the time and do everything from my back. If you think about outcomes you're wanting in a match, you're always trying to get to the back, always trying to get to the mount, always trying to get away from legs. So there's those things that you start looking at when you train down the road that you feel like, man, if I would have put more like intention in this as a white belt, a blue belt, like where would I be today?
I know. I think about that all the time.
Frustrating.
I learn things in class now from John, especially in like the Q&A after. I'll ask him a question that I think is so stupid. I'm like, he's going to laugh at me. He's going to tell me to get the fuck out of here. And he'll be like, no, that's a good question. This is a very tough situation. And he like answers it perfectly. And
like you said, it's too simple.
Yes, and I'm just like, there's just so many things that I'm relearning as black belt that I look around the training room and I see these other blue belt females and men, and I'm just like, you guys don't have any idea like what you're learning right now. And this is, of course, evolution of any martial art and jiu-jitsu, especially, you know, the blue belts now. And I think Pittman would say this. He said, your average competitor blue belt now, and like, don't quote me on this.
No, he would say they know more jiu-jitsu than a black belt from 1990.
Right. Yeah. That's what he said. He'd be like, they would probably give Elio a run for his money, like at black belt. And I'd be like, ooh, really? Did he just say that? He's like the founder, but he's like, that's just how much it's progressed. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, with that progression to jiu-jitsu and with kind of the female side of it, what do you feel like is the thing, you know, Davies? She just came out like last week and she was like, listen, females need to start holding out more. They need to start asking for more for privates, start asking for more things. Like you're a competitor, you coach, you do all this stuff. Do you think, like being realistic, do you think there is a market for it, or is this like an NBA, WNBA kind of argument?
I know.
You know what I mean?
No, I read her post and I read, I found the article, and then of course, like anybody, I read the comments.
The comments for sure.
Yes, and I like to see both sides because I'm not one of those women. I'm a women, you know, I feel like feminist has such a negative connotation now, right? But like there are, in the idea of like women's equality and just being like a feminist, quote unquote. Like, again, it has a negative connotation now. But all that means to me is equal respect and dignity for both people. So by being a quote unquote feminist, I don't label myself like that, but someone might see this and say that. It's not anti-men, right? Like it's definitely not what it is. So, you know, I think that
Dudes suck. I hate guys.
Some do. But, you know, when I think about it, it's not that like I hate because now I'm just seeing this polarization of like, this means like women don't need men and men don't. And I'm like, no, that's not how this goes. But I see what she's talking about. And I think she's right. She's like, we have to put our foot down. It starts with us. And so I feel like her post was basically saying, hey, ladies, take responsibility instead of sitting here and complaining. I'm not going to teach that seminar for free.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a $40 private. I'm a world champion. I'm an ADCC champion. So my private, per hour is this. And maybe people clap back at that. The argument against what she said and what I was reading in the comments, which were mostly men, I get it.
Right.
But you're right. It is kind of a NBA, WNBA argument. I'll get to that in a second. But the argument against what she said is bring more spectators to the sport and women's matches are boring and blah, blah, blah. Well, the women's matches being boring, I disagree with.
I disagree with that as well.
I've seen some very boring men matches. I've seen amazing women matches, so that's not it too. The argument of bring more spectators to the sport, it is hard when majority of the sport is men and maybe 10, 20% are women. I've heard somebody counter argue that and say, okay, maybe we could bring more spectators to the sport if we had more marketing, which we're not getting either.
Fair.
So, yes, we're all working on that. So I see both sides, for real. The WNBA, NBA thing, it is how it is. It is true. Like, I think a lot of women aren't supporting, other women's sports. Like, we go to I don't keep up with WNBA, but it's like,
I don't either. I don't think anybody does.
Right. Like, I don't see a lot of women supporting, they're out there watching the NBA. So again, that responsibility falls on us women to support other women, watch women matches, go to women's sports. But then that being said, I mean, the basketball national championship between, who was it? Was it, Louisiana.
Bro, I don't watch women's basketball.
It was the NCAA championship,
Okay.
right? And that brought us so many people.
Because there was hype between the two teams because people were flipping each other off and they were talking trash and the
Iowa
coaches.
And what was the other team? Oh my gosh,
I don't know.
Louisiana.
Nobody does.
I know, but it brought so much.
LSU?
LSU, yes.
Okay.
And that was just such a great. And I don't know. You should go watch just the highlights because it was a great series. I mean,
I love layups. I'll watch the highlights.
Oh my gosh, sure. Watch the highlights, and there were so many women on there. Just like a girl named Carson, she didn't get a lot of TV time. She had a blonde afro, and she didn't miss a three. I mean, and I'm not talking about a three at the line. I mean, she was probably
The
5
NBA
foot
line,
back from the line, making three. I don't think she missed one single shot. And with the crowd was wild, and I'm like, wow, that is women's sports right there. It was just as fascinating to watch as watching the men's NCAA. And I don't watch basketball that much, but that got me when I was watching the highlights, I was like, wow, these ladies are freaking awesome. I played softball, and I mean, there's been some banger softball matches. I mean, that brings actually a lot to the NCAA championships as well.
See, I know more people that watch college softball than watch the women's professional football league or WNBA or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing with sports, and you had already talked about with jiu-jitsu, is now it's such a hot button thing about transgenders in sports, in college sports. We talk about swimming, or there was that video of high school kid in lacrosse that knocked that girl's teeth out.
Ooh, I saw that.
But that could have been thrown by anybody,
right? But
there is an issue with. Even in jiu-jitsu, they had that match at Naga where it was a female going against. And there's always the argument of this is to make someone feel more comfortable in their own skin and help support them what they're doing. But there is a physical difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
That cannot be ignored.
Right.
And it's a safety thing.
It is, yeah.
Because if I had a daughter...
Yeah.
I would not want her to have to go with someone who's gone through puberty and is going to throw her around like a rag doll, even if they're the same weight.
Yeah.
To me, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and not to, especially for women. Years ago, you think decades ago, before Title IX was a thing, before Title IX was introduced in college sports, I mean, the women who have fought their way for women's leagues and some of the amazing athletes we probably never heard of. There's been amazing women athletes in the 1800s, 1900s, and think about what they went through. I mean, that was when you had to get married at 16. You better have a husband by the age of 17, or you were just
kids,
with all your kids. And so, see some of these women, they've been amazing, who have paved the way for us. And then to see Title IX and all of what's happened, all the good things that's come from that, and where we're going, and then to see something like that, you're just like, you know, but yeah, like you said, to kind of like bring full circle, it's like the response, we have to continually, as women, we can't sit here and just play victim. I think, yes, we need to point out we need to point out the unfairness, yes, but the responsibility falls on us to support each other, to put our foot down, and to be more aggressive. Maybe not aggressive, but what's the word Jordan Peterson calls us? Agreeableness in terms of getting paid. You know, he actually points this out. Women are making most of the consumer decisions in the United States. Like, I think somewhere around 80%. I mean, I don't quote me on that, but women are actually making most of the consumer decisions.
I know this because whenever I'm talking to dudes about members, I have to ask my wife.
You gotta talk to your wife about like a couple $100.
I look at him. I go, dude, you tell me that your wife. You have to check with her if it's okay if you can protect her, and protect yourself, protect your kid, and lose weight.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know,
Pittman. I remember Pittman would talk about that because he, we went over sales training. He goes, I don't have to talk to my wife about $200. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is health fit, but yeah. But like you said, women are making most of the consumer decisions. Yeah. A big aspect of who gets paid the most, he talks about that in his book, is disagreeableness. The more agreeable you are as a person, I'll do this, I'll do that. Women, on average, just, I know it's a stereotype, but just on average are more agreeable than men. And that is a lot of the disparity with income, because men are, they're willing to put their foot down.
Okay.
So that's something, an aspect we need to learn to be more disagreeable. It doesn't make us any less feminine or anything like that. And this is, again, social conditioning that we just have to see. And it doesn't make us less feminine to be more disagreeable, but responsibility falls on us to
it's kind of like a boundaries
keep fighting.
Thing.
Right. Yeah,
but in business, you're setting. I'm saying this is where I need to be. This is what I'm demanding. This is my boundary, and I need respect to this point.
Right. Yeah, we have to. Sense. I think as women too, it's like we learn. It's again, this isn't men versus women thing, right? This is we need each other in society, obviously. But learning from the men, they're most of the ones out here who are CEOs and business owners and teaching these things. Not to say women aren't doing that too, but when you look at some of the aspect, it's not that it's just this masculine thing. It's just these are the characteristics that people who are higher paid have. And you can embody that too and learn that, and it doesn't make you less feminine. You just have to realize that. So you can keep your femininity. It's not we're not trying to compete with the men necessarily. It's just, if we want that equality, that's something that we have to learn and take responsibility for.
So 2 questions. As a trainer, what do you say when you have somebody? We'll give you 2 different people. You've got the person. You got the person that is half in, half out on nutrition. I'm going to work out right. I'm going to do these things. Half in, half out on nutrition. So I would think that would cover 80% of the people that are watching this that work out, that are in shape, they're trying to be healthy. And then that person that is not doing anything because every excuse is too expensive, which really means I don't have time, which really means I'm intimidated by this. This is a lot of work. I want a nutty buddy, so bad. Can I just please put peanut butter on my pancakes? Because I'm depressed. I don't feel good. My life is stressful. There's comfort there. There's all these little things that really, really play into just more than just pricing or time.
Right. Yeah.
What do you say to those 2 different people?
Ooh, okay. So the person who's you said half in on nutrition, half in on working out, but they're consistent.
Yeah.
So I would definitely tell the person who's half in, half out that even though you're 50% compliant, as long as you're 100% consistent, that is way better than doing nothing at all.
Ooh,
now,
like
you do have to understand that you'll only get so far. So if you're, you just have to realize you're not going to get, if you're a woman, you're not going to be less than like 20 or 15% body fat by being half-half, same thing with men. Like, you're probably not going to drop below 15% body fat if you're just going to half-ass it. However, in terms of general health, avoiding the metabolic, diseases that plague this society, those kind of things, longevity, if you're 50% compliant but consistent, way better for health, for sure.
Yeah.
The best training program you do is the one that you do consistently. So just understanding until you decide, like if your goals are bigger than this, like there's 30 more pounds you want to lose or whatever, it is going to require a little bit more of being 50%. But that being said, what you're doing now, if you're consistent, is definitely better than nothing, right?
Nice.
The person who is like, this is too hard, this is blah, blah, blah. What I would say to that person is, it seems to me like the pain of staying the same is still less than the pain of change. So until the pain of being where you are, being out of shape, being sad, being depressed, or whatever that is, obviously that pain is not great enough to elicit the change where the pain of changing is worth more. So until you get to that point, and unfortunately, people hit that rock bottom. Like, you get hit with a pre-diabetic notice from your doctor, maybe you have a heart attack scare, like those kind of things, unfortunately, are what, plague people to change. Unless some people just look in the mirror and they're like, I'm tired of this. And they're like, that's it. There's that pain point. But it really
trying
is.
on suits.
Right. Yeah.
I
That
can't do
moment
this
where you
anymore.
realize you're like, I have to get a new wardrobe because I can't button my top button. Sometimes that pain is pain enough, but until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain it would take to change, that person they'll never quit. They'll come up with excuses. And the thing about excuses, and I've had clients that I've trained that excuse after excuse, I've given them everything I could possibly give them, and they still, but it's like, the truth is you just don't want to do the work. You don't want to take responsibility, because responsibility is fucking hard, and responsibility has some shame with it. You feel a little bit of shame, a little bit of pinch.
Accountability.
Right. And it's not to say that, shame has its uses. Too much can be bad. Too little can be bad, right? Yeah. But it does have a use of putting that this is just America in general. We don't want to be responsible for ourselves. We love excuses. Why? Because excuses eliminate us of responsibility, right? I'm busy with work. That eliminates you. Or my kids, I'm very busy with the kids. And I have so many moms who work that have kids that like 13-hour shifts at the hospital and go and do a workout. I literally just posted one of my clients, and it's like, damn, she's out here doing it with her 5 kids.
Yeah.
Man, like I have no excuse. You know what I mean? Like single dads, like all that kind of stuff. So excuses are just a way to eliminate us of responsibility. I literally had a client one time tell me, and he was a high-end like portfolio manager, right? And he told me it was excuses about why he can't stay on track with his diet because of all the functions he's go to, and it's all day drinking, and it's all day this, all day that. And he was like, well, you got to understand, with these high-end, with these 8-9 figure clients and blah, blah, blah. And, I was like, who's responsible for what goes in your mouth? Are you telling me you can't make a sale or keep this client unless you drink with them 5-6 drinks in a row?
You must be a shitty salesman.
Right. And the thing is he wasn't a shitty salesman. It was just, he was amazing at what he did. He had money. He definitely had the time to work out, but he just didn't. He would make some progress and then go on a big extravagant trip and then gain it back. COVID happened, gained it back. And his excuse was like, I gotta wine and dine these clients. It's like, dude, they don't force it down your throat. Yeah. You can make the sale and keep the client by having responsibility. Again, that's just an excuse. It eliminates us of responsibility. You can have a steak or chicken and veggies anywhere, bro. Right. Yeah. And nobody's going to be like, oh, that guy didn't pound a fifth of Jack with me. We're just not going to do it. You know what I mean? So, again, it's just the excuses make us feel good because it eliminates us of responsibility. So it comes down to emotional control.
And so taking that same thing, take it to jiu-jitsu, talking to a female that is not really improving because timidity, being uncomfortable, not really feeling like, oh, is this the right place? Am I doing the right things? All these people are getting better than me. They're stronger than me. I'm behind. Physically, I'm behind. I'm behind with rough housing.
Right.
You got those people. And then you got the women that are saying like, I'm not going to do this. I don't need this.
Ooh. Why would they say they need it? Like the other women. Like you're talking about a woman that doesn't train. Me. Oh, yeah.
Listen, I would die for my kids, but I definitely wouldn't take a self-defense class.
Right, exactly, yeah. Or I'd die for my kids, but I won't live healthy for them. Yeah. Again, so for one woman, that at least the one that's in there, she's timid, and obviously that's like a confidence issue. At least she's in there and being around the environment and those other women. You know, when you have a good women's support group in your gym, I mean, you can learn a lot. It just comes with time. A woman like that, that's probably like too timid to the point where she's being just, you know, overpowered all the time. You know, probably just comes from like might be kind of like a people pleaser, you know, low confidence, low self-esteem. And it's just going to have to come with time where you make that decision that, you know, you're going to stand your ground and you're going to be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to your training. And you just have to like kind of unlearn. It's a matter of unlearning the behaviors, you know, and we all have them, you know.
I think I think for that female, I think it is on a coach and is also on training partners, those males that are in the room, to be like super supportive. Right. Be like, I'm so glad you're doing this. Right. You're not, and not just, oh, I'm beating you because I'm big and strong. Right. You know, you need this for self-defense. Yeah. Like, no, she knows that's why she's here.
Nothing's more valuable than a great male training partner. Dude, let me tell you. Like, oh my gosh.
They really, they like a really helpful, big, strong dude, but that understands, hey, I want you to get better because it means something to me too. Right. Because I got a mom, I got a sister, I got a daughter. Yeah. So that you're that person in this room. You're, and it helps makes
them better. Yeah. I've had so many like male training partners so much bigger than me, skilled, that like they want to roll, you know, with someone like me because they're like, man, I can be more playful, I can move around more. I mean, like those kind of male training partners are just so valuable. You're like, oh my gosh, like it's nice to be able to train with a big guy, understand that weight distribution, and then not have to worry about getting my neck cranked to where I can't train the rest of the week. And then the other woman, who's, you know, my husband will protect me. Like, is your husband with you 24 hours a day? Like, you know what I mean? That woman's probably never been put into a scary situation. You know, I guess to each their own to that. But to me, that statement's just sounds a little bit arrogant, you know, like, oh, my husband will protect me. Again, it's, you know, you're the one out there. Right? Again, women are making 80% of the consumer responsibilities. What does that mean? We're out there on our own. You know, we're doing most of the house. You know, we do the grocery shopping. We're running the kids around. Yeah. So it's very important to be vigilant to be able to stand your ground for your kids. Like at the gas, every woman knows the gas pump is like the scariest thing, right? So it's just, that's a little bit of this like kind of fly over your head type of thing. You're just not thinking much about the future. It's a little bit of egotistical statement. Like, I mean, your husband's not with you 24 hours a day because he's probably at work supporting your family. So
I've also seen your husband.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Probably not going to help.
Right. And I've seen this. It's the same as that person that's like, I don't need that. I got a gun. Is your gun with you right now? Like, are you just going to, right. Exactly. Like, are you just going to shoot somebody that tries to like break into your car? You actually can't legally do that, right? Like, you'll go to jail if someone tries to break into your car and you're outside of your vehicle. You can't just shoot them dead. That's not how that works.
There's a real disconnect between what people think they can do and what they can do. We talk about that all the time.
Right. Yeah. There's a study on that. It's like a cognitive. I forgot the name. It was a study
Is it
done.
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes, the Dunning. There you go, Dunning-Kruger. Yeah, and
shout out to Dr. Mike Simpson.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, the less we know about something, the more we think we know, right? And same thing with nutrition. Like all the time, people are like, yeah, I know nutrition, and I think people think, yes, I know nutrition, because if you ask somebody what a healthy meal entails, 90% of people are going to say, you know, veggies, fruits, and like, you know, like, okay, people know in general, like, what's quote unquote healthy. And then so people mistakenly think, oh, I know nutrition. Yeah. No, you don't know nutrition until like, dude, let me sit with you for 1 hour and just teach you. You don't know nutrition.
Very different.
Same thing with, you know, being able to defend yourself. Like, oh, I'm in bodybuilders. I'm in shape. I'm good. Like, oh yeah, I'm fine, until you take one class. Yep. Even just 30 minutes, you realize you don't know what you don't know. Right. any aspect, finance. Like, people think they know finance. No, you don't. You don't know finance. Go talk to a portfolio manager or somebody like a broker. You don't know finance. So the Dunning-Kruger. It is. It's especially when we're not exposed to it.
Yeah, I try to stay in a one lane jiu-jitsu.
Yes, like stay.
That's all I know about.
Stay in your lane. Like, in fact, like, I'm studying right now the pelvic floor, and it's this whole course by the wonderful doctor named Sarah Duvall, and I am learning so much about women, like assessing women's pelvic floor, diastasis, just in general what happens during pregnancy and after, where before this course, you're just taught a little bit in your personal training.
I kind of know some stuff.
I was like, I know some pelvic
I can
floor.
put
we need to do some bridges and some dead bugs and some deep breathing, blah, blah, blah. And then I did day one of this course, and I was like, I know nothing about the pelvic floor. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man, I got to find all the clients I could have helped 10 years ago if I would have studied this cert before, It's
crazy.
Right.
So with that being said, how do people get in touch with you? Are you taking clients? What would be a step to get people where they can contact you and start getting some help if they're done making those excuses?
Oh, yeah. So I only work with a certain amount of clients. So, that being said, at this point in my career, I only want to train people who are serious. I'm not, my time's very valuable. So, we get on a call and I assess how serious you are and how ready you are to make change and get going the right way and save you time, then definitely reach out to me. That being said, I stay pretty full with the clientele I have now. So at any given point, I only have like a few spots open for training. And then there are some times where my client list is full and if you reach out to me, might be put on a waiting list. But nonetheless, if you are serious, then definitely reach out to me. So I would say the first way is to start by going to my website, jordanpatrickfitness.com. Because on my website, I have free resources. So you can actually quote unquote try before you buy. See how I write my, I have a example meal plan template for women and men on there. I have a BJJ strength and conditioning template, a 4-day split, how jiu-jitsu athletes should train. Right. And again, it's nothing crazy. We're not going to be doing jumping weighted split lunges day one on the jiu-jitsu template.
I did your arm day today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to train today twice. So that I can definitely attest for people that have injuries, for people that are coming back from big injuries or surgeries, or if you're older, you have no mobility, low mobility. I can say right now, like the programming that you've done for me, I always refer people to it.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a lot of referrals from you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So you could start there by, downloading a free resource. And then after that, on my webpage, you can, an inquiry goes right to my email, or you can message me on Instagram, if you're serious about getting started and make you a custom training program. And this is why I only work with a certain number of clients, because I do customize each client's training plan. Maybe they have injuries, they're only available for certain equipment. Some clients train 5 days a week, some train twice or 3 days a week. And then obviously those clients are at different levels. I have some that are like great athletes, they're ready to put a barbell on their back and start squatting, whereas some people haven't worked out in like 15 years. Right. So we got to start at basics. So I'm very good at meeting the clients where they are and giving them what they need. And then also I'm certified in corrective exercise. So that's one aspect of, clients will send me a video. And I'm like, man, you're hip shifting in your squat. Like, we have got to address that. So I can actually, now I know how to, I wouldn't say like fix, but we can improve your hip shift or just whatever issue you're having. And I'm one of those people. I know how to stay in my lane. Yeah. We're all, how can I put this? Yeah, I do. I know how to stay in my lane. Whereas if I don't think that I can help you, I'll be like, yeah, you do need to go see a PT or a chiropractor. I'm definitely not somebody, I'm not like, if I don't think that I can help you, you definitely need to see somebody above, knows more knowledge than me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Worst thing in the world is a jiu-jitsu coach that if someone comes up to you and goes, hey, coach, my shoulder feels weird. I do this. And you start going, oh, my friend, just do this. It's like, hey, man, I'm not a doctor. You should go get an MRI.
Right, yeah. So you just got to know, I know when to refer out. So I think that's a very important aspect of training is staying in your lane. There's some clients I've met with, I'm like, you might need to go see a professional, like a therapist. I literally, you know what I mean? Nothing against that. But I've seen people showing signs of a possible eating disorder where I'm like, man, you shouldn't have nutrition coach. Like a meal plan and food logging is not going to work for you. It's going to make your situation worse where you need to, here's a referral for therapy. So I know how to refer out, stay in my lane. But like I said, those cases are pretty rare. But yeah, that's how you would reach me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, this has been a good conversation, Jordan. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's go train a little bit.
Yes. A full day of training.